Pidetään englanniksi joka tapauksessa. Joo, niin no, kun se menee, joo. Kello ei ole ihan vielä. Ja siellä. Okei, no sitten täytyy sen. So, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Energy Forum session today given by Valmet. My name is Tuula Ruokonen, and I'm trying to get today some view what this kind of a manufacturing company, who is actually more and more developing to be also a service company, is seeing the present energy market, and what kind of actions we have been doing and are doing to manage in this changing environment. Today I'm going to have a content of different sections, and I understood that it's better if we would have the questions afterwards, but if you get something which you really want to ask at the same time, just go ahead. About my background, why I am actually here presenting this content, is that I am in Valmet at the moment responsible of digital service solutions, but I have been also in the both strategy and service positions in Valmet. I have been there about 6 years, and before that I was 20 years, actually a bit more than 20 years in Fortum, in different positions there too. So actually what I'm saying in Valmet is that I have been in the customer's shoes, but at the same time it's easier to develop things when you have also the customer inside yourself, but of course it's very important to work with the customers. So I think that all that background, I'm hopefully going to be able to give you also a very strong glimpse of how the customers of Valmet are at the moment seeing the market, because that's of course the base for our business. The structure is such that I explain a little bit about Valmet. I'm sure that all of you know what our company is all about, but just to be sure. And then I go more to the energy market changes, what are the drivers of our R&D actions there. And then I thought that digitalization is very, very key at the moment in all the companies. So I will be explaining what Valmet sees as the industrial internet approach and offering at the moment. So I think that that will be very interesting, whatever company we are talking about, how we see that one. And I have some examples which are also related, what kind of services we are basing on that kind of data-driven business. And it's always good to check the customer examples, so I have some of them too. But as said, you are welcome to ask even during the presentation. Valmet was newly born about 4 years ago for the split of Metso company. But if you really think about what the competencies we have to go back 220 years from our first factory, which was actually about fabrics. And then later we have been formed of different kind of mergers, some demergers too, but mostly mergers. So we can say that we have actually very strong technology background, very competent engineers, both in process and in automation side. And that is a very good base to really try to find new solutions for these challenging changes in the energy sector. And but in that way, we can say that this 4 years being exactly this Valmet is not everything what we have, but you have to remember this background. What is Valmet today? It actually, during those 4 years, when we have been split from Metso, we have been growing all the time. Our profit levels have been improving all the time. So we can say that it was a successful move, and also our stock price has been going up. So the investors see that we have a very good focus. You can see in this picture that we are very global. We have area organizations which are very strong, and that's of course good for our customer relations, our service business, and in general, that's a good base to grow. We have 4 business lines. The one which is now, if we talk about today, which is maybe the one who is taking care of the capital project, is pulp and energy. Then we have services, which is serving the energy customers and other customers, and automation, which has a lot of products, IT products for automation customers in energy. So those 3 in energy field are the key units I'm talking about today. But the others, like pulp and paper, for us is of course very key, because they are the customers of the energy business, and also they are using biofuel for other purposes. So I think this kind of, we could call ourselves biotechnology company in that way. You can see that services is actually very, very big part of our business, plus then automation, we call it stable business, which means that it's easier to grow on the installed base. We are not only relying on the project business, which is more of this, but they are all supporting each other. I mentioned already that it's very important to follow up the customer's business and the challenges there. And how we have done it is that we are, first of all, like every company is looking at megatrends, all the big things which are happening in the world. And I'm sure that you all have the same feeling that environmental issues are very, very key, and it's very much affecting the energy business in general, both from the resource usage point of view, plus then the emissions and such point of view. Then digitalization, I mentioned already. So that's one of the areas. And then, of course, people moving to cities and this urban lifestyle and effects of that one. How that is then moved towards the market drivers, which we see exactly in energy business, is of course very concrete things, like economic growth, at the same time having that the old centralized power stations are aging. So there are a lot of needs to think that what kind of new capacity you build and what type of new capacity. And how can you use the old equipments also very efficiently if you have invested in them. Then again, sustainability from the point of view that also the sustainable solutions are at the moment getting quite a lot of support from different governments, and that affects quite a lot, and these incentives are very tricky from our point of view, but especially our customers' point of view, because you never know how long they will last. If you think about the incentives for wind and solar, there has been big effects of that kind of solutions, but nobody knows how long they will last. So can you actually invest in such a thing and think about investment for 30 years, for example? So that's a very tricky decision. And then another thing, security of supply. If you think about, again, comparing very clean energy forms like wind and solar, the problem is that you don't have a stable production all the time, so you need to have backup power. And of course, I'm sure that you have been reading that in Germany, where they have both solar and wind, they have been forced to have also gas turbines to be able to fit the situations where you don't have the energy. And of course they still, as you know, have nuclear and even coal. But these are kind of like the boundaries where our customers need to make decisions. And then we need to make technologies which are helping them and solutions which are helping them to fit into these and to get their solutions on those. Other thing which is very much changing at the moment are the fuel prices. Shale gas in US came, and it actually changed totally the oil and gas prices at that time. And now, when thinking about it, it's of course affecting still many decisions also in Europe, because the thing is that now what happened was that the coal they were using in US was moved to Europe, sold there with very low prices, and then many of the plants which were thinking about using biofuel with the incentives or without the incentives, they actually moved to coal, which then from the sustainability point of view was very tricky again, because you were affecting the wrong way the different incentives we had. But that happens, and that is a global thing. You might think that, okay, this kind of US situation wouldn't affect us here in Finland, but yes, it did. And that's why it's very important to follow these, and the challenge here is that there is no view. Nobody can guess how the prices will be in 10 years or 20 years. There are scenarios, and the customers of ours are using them, and then they try to base their investments based on that. But this is very key to understand that there are different kind of fuels and they have different kind of prices. So what to invest then? If you want to have easy combustion, you of course should choose coal and fossil fuels, because it's already very traditional. We know how to combust them or how to burn them. But when you come to these other fuels, and especially having a fuel mix of different kind of fuels, then the challenges begin. Especially if you think about recycled fuels, which should be, of course, one of the key things that we utilize the energy. If we can't recycle them totally, then we utilize them for energy. They have quite often a lot of chlorine in them. So what it means that when you are burning chlorine in that, you get problems in corrosion. So you might actually need to rebuild your power plant many times because of that fuel. For example, economizers or superheaters. So the thing is that it's very important to understand when you are building a new plant what kind of fuel mix you are going to have. It's important from the combustion side, plus also the emission side. I understood that it's not good to go into the details, but if somebody is interested, we can talk about the details on the different technologies. But many times you need to have a certain type of technology for a certain type of fuel. That's the key, and especially the mixes, you have to manage them. So how do we in Valmet try to help the customers? We both want to develop, of course, technologies which are giving you an option to change your fuel mix during the time. Because you remember that the fuel prices were going up and down, so you might want to change that. So as flexible as possible is good for the customer. But of course that's costing a little bit more. And then you have to have also your emissions control that way that you manage all those different mixes. So that's what we try to work on. And then try to get it as affordable as possible. And that is, of course, sometimes also challenging. The more equipment you have, of course, the cost is higher. But that's the way how we do it. And what it means for our R&D is that we actually try to take each of those challenges the customer has as our input and try to find a solution to our technology, to our services, to provide them solutions. Like if you think about service side, we try to build services where we are improving the customers' let's say availability or their performance, environmental performance, by changing some smaller things in their existing plants. So that's one way to affect to these challenges. The other things are, of course, this kind of what we already were talking about, the raw material, water, and energy efficiency in general, because you saw the drivers there. And then renewable materials in general is very key to Valmet because, as I said before, we are a biotechnology company. We very much talk about how you can utilize biofuels, actually, other than just burning them. I will come back to that topic. Another very important thing is that we, as a company of 13,000 people, you would maybe think that compared to some companies, we are pretty big and we can do a lot of things. But the key is that we need to partner. We have seen that need, and especially in the new developments, we are looking for good partners, and we are cooperating with our customers. And that is very, very, very important in the future, especially for global companies. Now, a bit more detailed what kind of innovations we have done, and you can maybe, I'm sure that you can reflect all of those to these challenges I have been telling about. Let's start from the technology point of view. We were discussing that for different fuels we need different kind of technologies, and especially this kind of fluidized bed boilers, especially circularized, this CFB, which is the CMIC boiler. That is one of the key technologies where we can have multi-fuel solutions. So that has been developed exactly for those purposes. And maybe you have heard that in Japan, when they had the tsunami accident for the nuclear power plant, they have been now starting to build biofuel plants. And they have chosen actually CFB exactly because then they can change the fuel mix. So we have sold several of those by partnering with a company in Japan. It's a new pretty new market for us in that way. But then we have other similar purposes of burning difficult fuels like gasifier. That's one way to handle, for example, waste and other fuels. And the material, in the material you have also mentioned this bio-oil, black pellets, which means that we actually develop from the fuel new type of fuels which are then which you can burn in different kind of boilers. Like this bio-oil you can burn in a normal oil boiler. It's made out of biofuel, but then it can be burned. It's kind of liquid as it is oil. And black pellets, they are pellets made of biofuel, for example agrofuel, so that you can transfer them easily. You don't have to transfer water with it, so you transfer the pellets, and then you can store it. It's very, very durable form of fuel. So you can store it outside. So these kind of technologies we have also been developing, which again help our customers in their old boilers to use some other type of fuel which is more sustainable than the previous one. So these are all having the same logic, but the technologies are a bit different. The other thing I mentioned already about this chlorine and other problems the customer might have, we also develop technologies to prevent those. So this fuel diet is one of the products where we actually calculate for the customer what kind of risks they will have if they use a certain fuel mix. They don't have to do it that way, that they just use it and then they realize that there were problems, but they can calculate and avoid the problems. Or if they get very good price for certain fuel, then they can take the risk, but they actually take a managed risk. So this kind of services, this kind of products we are also developing. A couple of cases are Sappi, Kirkniemi, close by in Lohja. We were replacing their old coal-fired plant. Now they have they have actually a boiler where they can use a certain five fuels mixed in a very flexible manner, but biofuel. So that's one of the very good references we have. Another one which is from industry, where industrial sites quite often are having different kind of side products or wastes which they have to get rid of. It's very expensive to landfill them, so that's why to have such a solution where they can use it plus then get energy out of it. So this is one of those cases. This one is actually pretty demanding from the corrosion management point of view, and we have the fuel diet in that solution. About the developments, the traditional Valmet way, I want to show this slide because it shows you that the way how you develop process technologies is quite often very long. You can see here this bio-oil case. We started already in 80s to build this, and then we developed it with the customers, with the partners, and now actually it is ready and it's a product. But now, compared to the work I'm doing now in digital world, you all have heard about agile development, sprints, and then this is how we are used to be doing R&D. So what it means is that for these new developments, we need very, very different way, and very much maybe more even customer-oriented way. This was with customers, but still you need different one. I will come back to that topic when we come to the digital or these industrial internet solutions, but it is a very big cultural change in many companies, especially in manufacturing companies where really the workshops where you produce the boiler parts and all that has been the key. And to really develop all that and to get it to work, first piloting, then working, it takes years to develop something new. We still will be doing these things because these are part of the customer solutions, but we will be also having a bit of different, hopefully more agile development in our company too. Äänekoski pulp mill for us Finns, that's very, very important because that's the big investment for pulp mills in Finland for a long period, actually, or in that way that we are very proud to have it. And what is very good is that we had some of the key deliveries in that specific project, and it has been going very well. It's on time, which is not so easy for this kind of mega mills, so it's a good project. Actually, pulp price is in the right range now, so our customer is happy also that they have this investment. And from our perspective, besides all this equipment, what is more traditional, what we delivered, we made several new developments exactly for this customer. And the first one is this lime kiln. It's now fueled with the gasifier, which means that even biofuel is used for the lime kiln. That means very much from the sustainability point of view that you are not using only oil or such things what you traditionally use for that. The other thing is this recovery boiler. That's now much more efficient. We can make electricity there, so the customer can sell the electricity, and as it is biofuel electricity, it gets quite a good price for that. And the last one, this sulfuric acid plant, that's a very new thing, but that means that also the plant can actually produce their own material so that they don't have to buy it from outside. So quite interesting new developments, and I'm sure that these are, from the customer point of view, such that they will be helping them to make profitable business in the coming years. So we are at least very, very proud of these developments. This was the part where I was talking mostly about the projects and the capital investments, and now I'm showing you something what we are developing in the service side, especially an automation side, about new opportunities in digital business. We have just launched this new offering just before summer, and we continued. There was Technology 17 fair in Helsinki, so we were launching the newest products there. And we call it dialogue with data. And what it means that it's kind of like very practical approach to a situation where we have already several tens of years had a lot of data in our use from the customer processes, but we actually haven't used that data to provide the customer value-adding services. So this means that it's meaningful dialogue about data with the customer. That would be maybe the longer version of this. So utilizing the data, utilizing the knowledge, and how we do that is, as said, we have a long background of having automation and measurement systems in our company. So we have the access to, I would say, practically all the data we have in our customer processes. We can add on, by new digital equipment, we can add on measurements, and you can actually do the calculations even in cloud. But the thing is that the basic principle is pretty much the same as we have had before, that we take the data, we use it, we calculate different predictions out of it, and we create value add to the customer in that sense. So we kind of have the good background for doing this. Okay, you can see it in the right-hand side. You can see even the HoloLenses. So we do the new stuff with the new technologies too. I will come back to that. I said that we have had this automation business a long time, so it means that to be able to maintain the automation systems, you have to have the connections to the customer side. And the key has been that, or the key difference is that we haven't so often used that data to really analyze it. We have been just checking that if there is a problem, or we have been tuning the systems remotely and so on. But that gives us a very good platform for offering the customer new type of services. The other thing which is giving us very good strength in this kind of business is the process knowledge. The 220 years and the 13,000 experts in our company. So the process knowledge combined with the automation platform and the automation systems, plus then the service, local services, as we were discussing in the first pictures. Those all are forming a very good platform for this kind of new services, and that is actually something that we feel that differentiates us from many of the smaller competitors. Our big competitors like Andritz or Foster Wheeler or such companies, they actually have pretty much the same strengths, but not so much automation systems, or not maybe so much services. So we feel that we have now the big chance to do this. But of course, we have to still figure out with the customers that what this is all about. And how we do it is that we try to look for improvements for the customer. That's the base for our industrial internet approach, that we will try to find performance or reliability improvements to our customer site or their operations. And we have seen that there is big potential there. These are just examples that actually customers have money or potential to earn more money or to save money, and we can try to help them. So how to do this then? We feel that there are 4 blocks which are very important. One is this platform, that we actually have the access to the right data. The other one is that we have right type of applications so that they are either used by our experts or the customer. We have this process technology know-how, so we can also add on not only the IT systems but also expert support for the customers. That is very important because the IT systems can't solve everything, especially if you talk about diagnostics or troubleshooting or such thing, which is happening quite seldom. It's good to have also the people involved, and we have a mechanism for that. And then this ecosystem, that's about the partnering. We can't know everything about all the different processes which the customer has. We are not the best experts maybe in chemistry. That's why we are partnering nowadays, for example, with Kemira. That was the new just published ecosystem partnership. There are several of different kind of partners who can help us in the solutions. Plus then, of course, in the IT development, startups, very good new startups are there. So we are building our ecosystem for the solutions. About the offerings, I mentioned that all of these are related to bring more or better performance or reliability to the customer. That might mean that we visualize things differently so that they have a certain type of dashboard where they can see the key KPIs of their process and that development. We help them to benchmark themselves with similar plants and similar mills, and provide training for them to manage the processes better. So that's one part. Then the other part is this reliability, how to maintain your equipment, what kind of diagnostics you have there, how do you manage your asset, services for that. And then operations optimization, that is very important because, I am a control engineer. Actually, I have been studying here in Alta. That time it was called University of Technology still, but the thing is that the controls, there is a huge potential still in controls engineering for processes. We have done huge amounts of that, but there is still more. So that's one of the parts of how to make sure that the customer has the best advanced controls they can have. And then this performance center, that's a concept we have created. I mentioned that it's so important to get a person to help you if the whatever automation is not helping you enough or you still have a problem. And we have created this kind of performance center model. Actually, many companies at the moment are talking about operating centers. ABB has theirs, GE, and everyone has their own centers. And I think that it's a good idea to have kind of a centralized team which is working on these topics. But what is challenging is that that team can't solve everything, but you have to have a network. They have to know when there is a specific problem, whom to contact, and they have to have a model that that person has time to do it. If you think that you are in a big project, you are one of the only specialists in some technology, you need to have time for these customers too. And that is also, from organizational point of view, a very challenging job to change when you are mostly a project company. But we work on that, and we believe that we can do it. And the customers actually appreciate this type of model where they are having somebody whom they can contact straight away, and that person has an access to their processes, sees the same interface, sees the same data, so that they can talk. And they deliver also, the idea is that there is video connection and such things that we can actually be almost like at the site, although we are remotely there. So we are close to the customer. Okay, now you guys who have been maybe already tried the HoloLenses, so we are of course developing also a way with the holograms and avatars to be at the site, so that the team could actually be there. But that's the kind of future thing. This is now the best thing is to have the phone connection, camera connection, and then different tools which you can use for managing the same data. But yes, it will. Even the new development is ongoing. Those of you who might be interested in analytics, that's now a key. That huge amount of data, what we are getting, terabytes of data from the different customer cases, when you talk about process information, process data, that has to have good tools how to analyze them. And I'm very glad to see that many companies are now developing such tools so that they would be easy to use, and hopefully they will be even easier and better in the future. But what we have been using very often, just correlation analysis is very good tool, but of course it's good to have even more advanced tools. The performance center is very key here, that we will have some analysts in every one of these customer segment centers, so that they can handle the specific problems. And of course, after we have analyzed something, we might actually find, as we are trying, to find the root cause, and then we can solve the problem that way, that we can even make an online application on it. So this is also about method development as it is. The other thing we were discussing about mobile or mobility at the moment. So the key is that the customer also can see whatever is relevant to their process. So we are building a portal where we put all these applications, and the customer can decide which data is the most relevant for them. For example, this kind of production panel where they see how their processes are doing, what is the performance, are there some actions to be taken, and also this 24/7, the hotline to the performance center that will be in the portal. This will be launched in the end of this year. But it's a very useful tool also our own people, not only the customers, because then you have all the relevant information of that specific customer and that site in one place to be accessed. So our salespeople will love this system. At the moment they have to take the information from different kind of sources, and it's not always so easy. Promised to tell you a bit of the new developments. Virtual reality, mixed reality, or augmented reality. We are building, actually all of those technologies are used in some of the newest cases for training, for collaboration, we have even a holo mill where you actually have the whole, whatever you used to have in an operating room, you have it with you on your head. Later they say that it goes to the glasses, or there are smart glasses, of course, coming, but the thing is that HoloLenses are pretty heavy at the moment. You have probably tried them in some fairs. So the thing is that it will develop, but the key is the content. What do you bring to the person when they are doing the maintenance? What do you bring to the person who is doing troubleshooting? What do you bring to the manager? What are the key things? But it's about personalizing the data, which is there, but it's in different systems, and you bring it to the person wherever they are, not so that they have to go to the operating room or to have some tablet where they have different solutions, but you bring the essential information to the people. And that is going to be a very efficient way for the customer and us to find the right information. I mentioned about this ecosystem or cooperation, and at least for us in a big company, it's not always so very easy to cooperate. We have a lot of sub-suppliers. We are good in making projects, but when you come to the thing that you need to cooperate and co-create, that's a certain type of new skill what we also need. And we have now found for this ecosystem Tieto as one very key partner, because they actually have a set of IT systems which we don't have at the customer side. They are having these kind of manufacturing systems and such things where you plan the production. So Tieto is very key. I mentioned Kemira, and there is quite a long list of different companies we are now negotiating with to have this kind of common solutions. And I'm looking forward to this, because there is no way that our company could develop everything and that we would know everything. So you need to find partners how to do it better. Promised to give you a couple of examples just as to show that what this actually means. And first I took this energy optimization because of course energy related things are also from the usage point of view, or energy users are in your agenda in this seminar series. So how do we make this energy optimization in this Valmet application? The key here is actually the paper and board, but this can be applied to other processes pretty similar way. But again, like we were discussing, that you need to have process knowledge, you need to have automation, understanding controls, understanding, and then you have to have the service. And those are all connected in this product that way, that we actually visualize to the customer what type of energy efficiency they have at the moment. We use also benchmarking for that. So are they in a good level, or do they have improvement potential? Then we follow that up based on the grade they are making, because we all know that different grades, different speeds of the paper machine, that will have an effect. So we kind of analyze the data that way, that we know what we compare it with. And then we make a good visualization of that, but also analyze what could be improved and make those tunings to the process. And the very key is that we also give advice to the operators what to do differently when they are just operating the site. And that is actually, it's not so very easy thing to do, because it's easy to show things, but to really tell and give some kind of advice how to change the operations if you are used to doing them in a certain way. It's not so easy, but that is what we are aiming at. And the results we have got are very good. Actually there is a lot of potential in all the processes to improve. And that gives us a very good opportunity to show fast the customer new savings. It's always good when you have some system where you can actually calculate the savings potential very easily and then show it fast. The challenge in maintenance, for example, is that when you are changing maintenance actions, you might see the result much later, because you are actually just managing risk of something happening or something going wrong, breakage or something. But this kind of situations where you can change something and show the results straight away, those are very good. And it gives, of course, a good feeling for the customer that, okay, if this works, then the next one could be interesting. And of course, sometimes the customers also want to have a model where they, as a business model, they pay a certain amount, but then they want to be sure that we will give them the results, so they make us a bonus system that way, that if we don't bring the results, we don't get the bonus. So it's also an incentive for us to work on this, and when we know that the solution works, it's of course much better for us in that way, that we can kind of be sure that it will be a successful project. So this will also change maybe the business models we are using. But this is a good example of such, and then what this service product has to be is that you have a very clear view how you do it, because we have the local organizations, so we have to have them doing certain things in a certain way. So what we are doing is that we define the different steps, and then we also define what data you need there, what resources you need there, and so on. So this is about service productification, service design. I'm sure that everyone has been hearing about different methods how to do the service design, so this is our way how we do that. Another a bit different application from energy side again, so boiler inspections. This is quite an interesting case in that way that it seemed to be that when in the power boiler or recovery boiler, when you make inspections and make tube thickness measurements, they normally are totally in a different IT system. And when you get a lot of data, a lot of measurement points, a lot of data, and you have several different years, and you should be making analysis on how the things are developing, it's not so easy. And a customer came to us and said that, couldn't you make a system which is giving us that they don't have to read the different documents that way, but they actually can see the results straight away. And then that customer actually said that if he would have a 3D view to that information, so that he could see in the boiler that, okay, in that corner, that's actually a risky area where there is a lot of red, that there would be a sign of red saying that now he has to do something in the next overhaul. And we were like, there should be such a system already, but there wasn't anything, because we were thinking that we could buy something from commercially. And what we did is that we actually started to develop that, so that we took a database. It's not in cloud yet, but it's a centralized database. We put the data in there, and then we actually make different kind of visualizations of that data. Very simple, but very, very important. The customer didn't have that information. Now we can share that information and discuss and manage the risks together. But without this kind of system, it would be impossible to really handle it. And as you can see, there is also, we have made a virtual reality kind of a description of that data too, so that you can bring in the colors. We were discussing about red color being critical, and then green being fine, and then we can bring in the photographs and everything what has been taken before in the last outage there. We can bring in maintenance data from the maintenance system to the same environment. And this is really about somebody just telling that I need this information when I'm doing design of the next outage, for example, for actions, or if I need to repair something, I need this information. And then our job is to bring that information and give you the tools how to visualize and analyze that. Sounds pretty straightforward, but it's the key is to discuss with the customer that what do they need, discuss with the experts what do they need, and then have the tools to do it. Again, this is very important for the customer, but because this is about managing the risk, like it says that if there is a leakage, then our availability is actually harmed very much. But of course you can't show if there would have been a leakage without this managing it this way. But of course you can follow up at least the statistics, and this is about risk management. It's a very, very key thing. And for example, for this Sappi-Kirkniemi, we took this program already from the very beginning, and we are following that up and managing the risks together with them. what do we do next in these things? As I said, we have been now launching the offering and launching the model. Now it's the time to work with the customers to really bring in the new offerings, change our own network to serve also the customers from the performance center and so on. So this might be quite a big change in Valmet, and still to have this good business what we have had before. So you can't sacrifice that one, but you have to bring in something new which has a little bit different model. So this kind of challenges. And I think that now it's the time for questions if anyone has any. Or comments. I was told that there has been very good active discussion, so hopefully I will get some good questions, either from the classroom or from the net.
Well, I have some first comments. It's been very interesting to see that you're so much in the service business, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I would have self-imagined you was more of a technology provision, but do you see that is the service business outgrowing the technology business? How will you develop as a company in the, let's say, next 10 years? Mm-hmm. What's the direction?
I think to be very good in service business, you need to have the technology know-how. And then the question is that how do you keep that if you wouldn't have it? So if you would be just an independent service provider. I think it's easier to build the service capabilities that way, that you do have also the R&D for the components, because then you can actually improve the components also. So we are bringing improvements which we of course offer in our next capital project, but we bring them also as separate smaller projects which we then actually might call maintenance, or you might call them, somebody might call them also capital business, whatever. But I would say that you need them both. And of course what we should do now more and more is that we should offer already, when we are selling a project, straight away all these tools, that we have the connection and we will help the customer already from the very beginning, so that we will have a long-term service agreement where we are close to the customer. Quite often in the service, in the project business, you actually are very happy when you have the warranty time over and you go to the next project, and you don't want to talk about that project anymore. But in the service business, we want to be there from the very beginning to the very end. So life cycle management, because we know that the customer will have new challenges in the future. So I see that this is the reason why I was actually moved from Fortum to Valmet, was the reason that I see that manufacturing company has such a big potential to build this kind of service business, expert service business. And if we know how to do that properly, what I showed, then we can be very, very successful. And the customers will benefit from that, of course. I don't know if I answered your question, probably. There was something I saw in my eye. Was there somebody else asking? No? No? Okay, yeah.
Well, my question maybe is a bit daring. Like, what kind of job opportunities do you have in research?
A lot, actually. But, yeah, specifically.
You are
yes.
also collaborating with different
Partners.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So do you have research going on in your
Yes,
company?
yes, we do.
Yeah. You just do it through partners?
Yeah, we have actually, that's the base of our present business, that we have very strong R&D. We have our own different kind of test facilities. We have actually, for example, a test boiler in Tampere, and we have our own core knowledge in our R&D. But what I meant about this partnering is that we can kind of like add on certain type of areas which we don't see as our core, or then that somebody else has already developed them further, so that they already have more competence in this one. Like I mentioned, Kemira, that's their core business. And then when you combine those, then you get even better solution for the customer. But yes, we do have our own R&D, major R&D still. We are very proud of our technologies, so we want to develop those. But also in the service we have wide R&D program. Like this one, I didn't mention it, but there is a TECES project where we got TECES funding, where we are building this industrial internet for paper machines especially, but of course we use the knowledge also in power plant side. But yes, to your question there, we are having our own. And I think that is one of the core competencies. That's very hard to outsource because you want to have it. That's the key thing, that you know your own components best and you develop them to be even better, more energy efficient, more saving materials and all that. Yeah.
So if I can continue this question a little bit, so that if our master students are interested, for example, if there's a master thesis topics available, so that can they contact Valmet by your web pages, or how they should make contacts?
I think that in the web pages there are always, for example, for summer students and also employees, there is that's the best connection, because that goes to our most routines. But besides that one, as one route, I think that this kind of active cooperation which we have actually with different universities, that normally brings us some good candidates. So maybe we have to tighten it still with Aalto if we don't have that connection already. But you have to remember that we have a big office in Tampere and Jyväskylä. So of course in those areas those students are very active to both for summer jobs and then for masters or candidate thesis, whatever. And I'm sure that we will in the future need more and more of the young people, especially for this area which I'm developing. I'm already kind of too old, but maybe I have been doing this stuff already 30 years ago with the not so good tools, so I have the experience from there, and then I have the business experience, but I do need people who will then live this and be our next operators to really help us to develop something new. So to your question, yes, if nothing else, now you have my name then, if nothing else.
Yeah, I have a question about the research. With the biofuel and the black pellets,
Yes.
Has your goal been to develop the technology to produce them and the boilers to combust them, or has your goal been to be the producer of the biofuel?
That's very interesting question, because I think in many of the technology companies, the question is that are they going to be also the asset owners, or are they just providing the technology? And so far Valmet has been taking pretty strong view that we are the equipment supplier only, and then service supplier. And then those partners who have been in the same projects, they are the one, like in this pyrolysis oil, that's Fortum, for example, our big partner, and in the others also. But I wouldn't exclude that totally in the future, but it is a big strategic question, because that's totally a different business to own something and then sell something. But I know that some companies have been moving more and more towards that they sell actually the result of the process rather than selling the equipment to somebody who is then selling the result. But at the moment, I have understood that we don't have that as a goal in the strategy. Yeah.
Yeah. How does the actually the ecosystem thing work? You said you were working with multiple companies and bringing customers and more value. How does it then actually work? Like, how do you divide the outputs, and how do you make things continuous? I'm just interested in that. In many cases, it could be that there are so many information gaps and such alike. How long are you in there?
The way how we operate is that with these partners, we have a ecosystem partner agreement. And in that agreement, we have defined certain targets of that cooperation, certain ways how we do, and of course NDA in that scope. But it's not normally such that they wouldn't be able to work also with our competitors. So it's not all inclusive, or what you call it, but it's not such. And the thing is that it has to be kind of win-win situation all the time. So what we are doing within that framework is that we are looking for common customer cases, where we try to define such a product offering which is better than theirs or ours alone. And then we try to sell that. And then the customer actually is deciding if it will work or if it doesn't work. But when we are choosing the partners, we try to find such partners who are bringing additional value add to the offering we have. Or then the partners could be such that they are like having such a system or tool what we don't have, which is then again complementing our offering in that way, and we don't have to develop a new one there, but we use theirs. But it has to be a win-win, and you are right that it's not easy, and I'm sure that we will have such that we start them and then we end them. But now I think these two, for example, which I've mentioned today, I'm sure that they will be successful. And especially when we talk about global offerings, these are big companies in Finland. But the thing is that to really succeed in the global business together, that would be the great thing for all of our companies. It will, as I said before, partnering it's easy to say that you have partners, but how do you really work that way that you are partnering? That was a very good question. But and then we have kind of defined certain type of team which is meeting every once in a while and checks how that is going. So it's kind of a steering group. So that's a model where we then review how things are going. Mm-hmm. Okay. No questions anymore. I hope that you found at least some things useful, and I'm sure that it's not only Valmet who has these same kind of challenges, so you can hopefully apply the things also to other cases. And what I want to maybe share with you is that, at least for me, this is very exciting that we have so many opportunities in one company. So different businesses, different developments. So you don't have to change the company to change the job. So for example, I started this present job a year ago, and there is a lot to do. Now a new thing actually is to find out how really new technology like robots and drones and stuff like that can be used in our site, field work and all that. And that's part of the digitalization and the opportunities there. But thank you for listening, and thank you for the ones who are there in the network still, if there are any. They have maybe left. But if you want to come and ask me some personal questions, that's fine too. I'm not in a hurry. So, but for this session, I think that this was the end. Thank you.
Thank you.